What's up, everyone? Welcome in. Welcome back to Shaw Locals Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors, along with Sean Hammond here on Monday afternoon, December 18th, the day after another just absolutely brutal Bears loss. Sean, you made your way back from Cleveland this morning. Um, I don't even know what to say about it at this point.
No, it's really hard to know what to say. We've done I feel like we've done this before, and it's because we did twice already.
I mean, we've certainly done this show.
They've they've blown now 3 double-digit fourth quarter leads this year. I mean, to do it once is bad enough. To do it twice, you're kind of like, okay, that's weird. And 3 times is just unthinkable in one season.
Well, what really? I mean, there are many. There are multiple things that make it worse, right? Like from the 2023 perspective, it was a
Mhm.
perfect opportunity to get yourself in better playoff position. Packers lose yesterday. The Atlanta Falcons take a loss. The Bears actually take it on the chin twice yesterday. Not
Yeah.
only have a loss on their own. Carolina pulls out a win against Atlanta, and now that number one pick is still Carolina's still in the driver's seat, but it's not much more, but it's more up in the air than it was. Um, but that's a 2023 perspective. The bigger perspective, I think, maybe with this coaching staff, the Eberflus era here is you were trying or you were hoping to see this narrative of the next step coming along, right? All right, this team is learning to win. This coaching staff is learning to win. And then yesterday happened, and you kind of feel like you're back to square one, where we were talking about on Friday, where like if they lose this game, you go right back to talking about coaches losing their job. And you wake up this morning, you listen to sports talk radio, you look at the newspapers, you go to shawlocal.com, and there that talk is right back where you expect it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I it sucks that we're back here because there was so much talk about finish and you thought they kind of got over the hump. They played so well last week against Detroit. Uh, thoroughly beat the Lions in that game. You had that fourth quarter comeback against Minnesota, and all that talk about finishing, and they felt like they were trending in the right direction in that regard. And then yesterday happens, and it felt like a carbon copy of that first Detroit game where they lost that fourth quarter lead. And it feels eerily similar just in the way that the defense fell apart. I mean, that was the strength. That's how they built their lead. They played so well defensively again for 56 minutes. And to
I
see
don't
it
I don't know
fall
if you could.
apart the way it did.
I agree. Like it did, but the defense played well. Like the defense played well enough to win that game yesterday.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying. Look, I know the offense has a lot of the blame in this. I'm not saying that's not the case. I guess more so I say that in the sense that I felt so bad for those defenders because I mean you can't really ask them to do much more. Sure, you could ask
Yeah,
them to get a couple of key stops at the end of the game, but they scored a touchdown. They created 3 turnovers. I don't know what else you want.
yeah. Montez Sweat continues to be a major impact player since the trade comes. I worried yesterday, and you were in the locker room after. I know it from reading your story. Eddie Jackson sitting all the way back in his locker. Um, do you have any concerns that yesterday was maybe a tipping point for like this team has done a really good job of weathering, you know,
Mhm.
the storm might not be the right word, but like when these situations they found a way to bounce back. It seems like yesterday may have been that tipping point though.
I mean, I could see it being that way. I mean, I think the frustration in that locker room, especially from the defensive guys, was palpable. I think obviously there's frustration on offense, but that's like they're two different animals right now because the defense is playing so well. Big picture, you look at everything as a whole. The defense is playing really well right now and has been for a month and a half. And so yeah, I mean, I think that it's fair to wonder if some of the decisions that they made. I mean, the blitz pressure they brought on that 3rd and 15 where you're dropping Justin Jones into coverage. It's certainly fair for the guys in that locker room to be questioning that call in that situation. And that was a look that they showed earlier in the game too. I don't know if you caught that, Kyle. That wasn't the first time they did that yesterday.
I did. I don't mind that they brought pressure. Like
I don't mind that they brought pressure either.
I don't mind that play call. Like Joe Flacco just made a play, right? You had a 38-year-old QB that continued to drift back. You had a look where you had a defensive lineman dropping back into coverage, and Joe Flacco beat it. But we talked about the game against Detroit, about them being aggressive for 52 minutes of that game and then really going into a shell. They didn't do that yesterday. They remained aggressive throughout the game on the defensive game plan. Joe Flacco just made a play, and he made 2 plays.
Yeah.
That play to Njoku to get him into the field goal range, but also the Amari Cooper play. I think Eberflus said yesterday, or maybe it was today. I can't remember when it was. I think it was yesterday. Said he thought that ball should have been intercepted to Amari Cooper, but even said that was a perfectly placed ball. Like he anticipated where Amari Cooper was going to be. Like he made a good throw there. Overall, the defense played well. To me, this comes down to coaching and the offense. I really can't put it on the defense.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that touchdown pass to Cooper, because I mean, same thing from where I was sitting. From my vantage point, is I thought that was an interception for sure. When the ball left his hand and where the Bears defenders were in that situation, I still don't know how they completed that pass. And then of course he makes a nice play for breaks a tackle and goes off to the end zone. That one is, you kind of just tip your cap to Joe Flacco, because I don't know that they could have really defended that better, other than maybe make a better tackle attempt. I don't know. I don't want to say better. Maybe somehow bring him down before he finds the end zone.
Maybe someone. I mean, the way Flus is saying that yesterday is reading between the lines, him saying that ball should have been picked off. He's saying someone needs to break on that quicker. But with that being said, I thought it was pretty good coverage. Quickly though, let's reset this here, because there's a way I want to go. There's somewhere I want to go with this, but quickly want to say, make sure if you're not following Sean on X yet, go there, follow him at Sean_Hammond. You can also find him on Threads and Instagram. You can find myself on X at Kyle Nabors. You can find all of our content at Bears_Insider on X or Twitter. You go to shawlocal.com. You'll find Sean's post-game analysis. Michael Dwojak at Hallis Hall for us today, covering the post-game from there. We'll have plenty of coverage throughout the week from you. And if you're all watching live on YouTube or Facebook this morning, we appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It is just Sean and I. We don't have Jake producing behind the scenes today, so I'll try and get to your questions and comments. A little hard to keep my train of thought and look over at the comments. So, give us a little bit of slack here. But where I wanted to go, Sean, with this was Joe Flacco. I want to preface this, because I'm guessing the comments are going to yell at me for this, but I understand there were some protection issues yesterday. There were some plays that his wide receivers could have made. You think of the Robert Tonyan should have had a touchdown. That was just a flat out drop yesterday. But Joe Flacco was sitting on his couch a month ago, and at 38 years old, despite not playing very well yesterday, found a way at the end of the game to make big plays and get his team into position to win a game. We now are almost 3 seasons into this, and we have Justin Fields with 3 game-winning drives in his career, and one of them was essentially kneel downs. At what point, what I'm saying, this isn't black and white, but it has to count for something, right, Sean?
I mean, yeah, look, the defense scored a touchdown. Your one touchdown drive from your offense was a grand total of 1 yard, and it took you 8 plays to get in the end zone. It's not a good look for your offense. And I know that Browns defensive front was causing trouble. Even like Justin said it yesterday after the game, but even when they're not sacking him, just the size and the way they're able to penetrate, messes with the throwing lanes and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all. Of course, those guys are really good on that side too.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like overall, I kind of felt like the Bears, especially that offensive line. I was more hopeful coming into this game that it would look. I knew that you knew Cleveland was going to get some big plays. They're going to have some sacks. They're going to get some pressure. But I was a little more hopeful that the Bears' offensive line would withstand that, better than it did.
Yeah, it did not hold up particularly
That was
great.
not one of their better games.
No, no. But that's gonna happen in the NFL. Like, not every game is going to be like fluid. You're gonna
Right.
struggle. Like every NFL team, like it's a slog sometimes to win games. You got to find a way to do it though. Like if you're gonna be a franchise quarterback, like you got to find a way to do it. I'll see if I can find it here. Here, Robert said, talking about Justin Fields, his play and pass to Komet, that touchdown pass was amazing. No way Flacco is making that. Yeah, I mean, you see that on a pretty much a weekly basis with Justin Fields. Like there are times where you're like, how many other guys in the NFL are making that play? The issue continues to be with Joe Flacco. The issue continues to be with Justin Fields. There's still like 4 or 5 times a game where he's not making the play that you need him to make. There's just not enough consistency. And like, he can't, like yesterday, 19 of 40 is it's not good enough. He did not play well enough in a big game on the road against a quality team yesterday.
No, and I think it's fair to, early in the year we were saying, obviously there were some concerns with how long he's taken to process things and how long he's taken to throw the ball. And I think it was fair early in the year to say, okay, it's week 1, it's week 2, it's week 3. He's figuring these guys out. He's still learning how to play with some of these guys. This is going to come along. And then I still, you're still at that same point where a handful of times a game, it just feels like he's holding on to the football for a really long time. And I know that that's not always just on him. That's on the receivers to get open. That's on, guys to run the right routes and all that stuff. But that's one of those things that continues to be a concern, Kyle.
Agreed. And the problem becomes, right? It's not doubting the upside. Anyone who's listened to this show, watched this show, I think I don't want to speak for you, Sean, but so I'll just say for like I've been a pretty big proponent for Justin Fields, believing that next level is there and that he has the tools to get there. The problem is we're now 3 games from the end of the season and we still don't know. And Ryan Poles has to make that decision. And I know that we already have questions, and I've heard it all morning long. Then you start going into the coaching staff aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, do you know that about Matt Eberflus? So you keep Matt Eberflus, but you fire Luke Getsy. Okay, well then you fire Luke Getsy, you bring in a new offensive coordinator, and then you do it like you give Justin Fields a year. Okay, well then what if he doesn't then he's still you still have these questions, right? He's still being inconsistent. Well, now you've passed on a guy like CJ Stroud, you've passed on Caleb Williams, you've passed on Drake May. Like, how can you continue to kick that can down the road as you try and figure out the answers to these questions? It's different if we're talking about the Bears picking 8th or 10th in this draft and not having the number 1 overall pick. But we're not. We're talking about 2 top 10 picks and likely having the number 1 overall pick. And we still don't have the answers. And we did not get any answers from Justin Fields yesterday.
It's to me, it's becoming, I know the Panthers won yesterday and that puts them a little closer to getting even with some teams, but let's just say they have the number 1 pick. No matter what happens, it's going to be 1, 2, probably 1 or 2, maybe 3, but I gotta imagine it's going to be the 1st or 2nd pick. And I'm just finding it harder to see if you have the chance to get a quarterback who you think could be the future, the future, not just of your team, but like a future star in the NFL. You don't have very many opportunities to do that. You don't know if you will be back here with a top 5 pick again. You can have a bad team and still wind up, 7th, 8th, ninth, as we've seen the Bears do plenty of times in the past. And it's just getting hard to, you want to see Justin Fields play well against good defenses. Once
Mhm.
you can't keep pointing towards the games against the Commanders, and I know Denver defense has played well, better the second half of the season, but
Definitely.
back when the Bears saw them, it was a different story, and you can't keep pointing to those games and saying that's
Well,
your proof.
how many teams this year have you played, or how many games have you been in against what you feel to be like legit playoff teams? Like Detroit, outside of
Detroit.
that, like I got.
I mean, yeah, I know Minnesota's in playoff position in the discussion at the moment, but I'm not necessarily feeling like that's the
Yeah.
NFC's weird, man. The NFC's weird. I really feel like there's only 4 good teams.
I don't even know if there's 4 good teams.
It depends. Yeah, it depends who you ask.
Yeah. And then you go back and
But yeah, I mean Detroit, Minnesota. Again, New Orleans is in the playoff hunt.
good defense.
Good defense. He didn't really play great offense against. Now Justin wasn't in that game, so that's not really fair. But
Yeah.
it's been few and far between.
So so like this all comes down to we don't know what Ryan Poles is thinking here,
Mm-hmm.
because you're trying to have this now. Okay, all right, you stick with Justin Field, but you make changes at the coaching staff. Then that how often and I don't know, but you feel like you have a pretty good core in place with this roster, right?
Certainly defensively, yeah.
Certainly defensively. You feel pretty good about what you have at the offensive line. Obviously,
I know they had a bad game yesterday, but I mean, I think overall this is the best their line has been in several years.
Yeah, you've got core pieces. You need to add to the offensive
Young
line.
talent, yeah.
Right, but you should be able to supplement that. There are not a lot of instances where we've seen rookie quarterbacks guide teams to the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl. So when you're resetting the clock, let's say you go out and you draft Caleb Williams, I think it's beyond silly to expect that Caleb Williams is going to step in and immediately be able to lead this roster to 10 or 11 wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at least probably another year of Caleb Williams, or Drake May. You get them up to speed, you're probably not making the playoffs again. Well, that's Matt Eberflus, right? So now you got 3 years of Matt Eberflus not making the playoffs. You build these different. So okay, if you keep Matt Eberflus, they don't make the playoffs. Okay, well now you fire the head coach. Now you're bringing in a new head coach for a second year of a quarterback again in Caleb. At some point you have to make a decision and get everything in this franchise on the same page. And that's what's becoming difficult with Justin Fields here, is because I'm becoming increasingly confident that we're just going to get an incomplete year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that it's not going to feel like you found the answer one way or the other, good or bad, that you found a definitive answer.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why there's, a section of the fan base that is saying you got to get these guys on that same timeline. Get a new head coach and a draft a quarterback at the same year, pair them together. Because for whatever reason, that hasn't happened with this franchise in years past. It's always been, one guy's on one timeline, one guy's on the other. And, we don't necessarily know how Ryan Poles looks at that. Does he look at these as 2 distinct decisions he has to make, regardless of what he does, with one or the other? Or is he looking at these as sort of a tandem move for the future of his franchise, both at head coach and at quarterback?
Yeah, we have no idea. We're really flying blind here. And I'll be completely honest with you. I don't think there's a wrong answer. Like if Ryan Poles decides to move on from Justin Fields, if he was to trade Justin Fields, get a second or a third round pick this offseason, draft a quarterback, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if they decided that they've seen enough or that it's an incomplete and that they want to give it another go, I would be absolutely fine with that. And I know that's not it's probably not the answer people are looking for. It's certainly not a definitive answer, but I don't think we're going to have a definitive answer. And I think anyone that tells you one way or the other, I think is full of shit. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I have no idea about the long-term future of Justin Fields at this point.
Look, and I agree with what you just said there, Kyle. Like, whatever Ryan Poles decides to do with any of these big picture decisions, I think based on what we've seen this season, that he can pretty much justify whatever he wants to do, whether he wants to keep Flus or not, whether he wants to keep Justin or not. And so really, I think what it should come down to, again, we're not inside his head. We don't know what he's thinking, what his desires for what this franchise is going to look like. We don't know any of that, but that seems to set up a position where he should just do whatever whatever his core belief in this is how you build a football team, just do it. Whether that's fire, whether that's get rid of them both, whether that's bring them both back, whether that's, one or the other. Like, just do what you think, how you think this football team should be built, regardless of who the names are, regardless of if it's Justin Fields, Caleb Williams. Like, he's in that position, because assuming that his job is safe, which I would 100% think, he's been on this job 2 years. I would be surprised if Ryan Poles' job was in jeopardy.
I think there's been, early in the season, I know we had a little bit of that talk. With the way things started out, that I think that was justifiable. But the way the young talent has continued to progress for a second straight season, I think that makes Ryan Poles' job safe.
And so if you're Ryan Poles, you're not boxed into a corner. You literally could do whatever you want with this team. Just do whatever it is that you believe makes a good football team, and just stick with that core belief.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what that is for him. I wish I knew, maybe I should go back and listen to his opening press conference. Honestly, I think I might, because that might be more enlightening than anything. Obviously he hasn't talked much this season.
Yeah, definitely. Really quickly, want to go ahead and give a shout out to Ken Nelson Auto Group, proudly serving the Sauk Valley area for over 55 years. Ken Nelson Auto Group provides 10 new vehicle franchises in one convenient location right here in Dixon, Illinois. Shop a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at kennelsonauto.com. Robert Phillips says, checking in from across the pond, Robert says, narrative will change over these last games. Narrative will change over these last setup games, dependent on wins or losses. I put that up there because it's a good perspective, Sean, because we said coming into these final 5 games that, 3-2, 4-1, Matt Eberflus probably keeps his job. I still think they probably end up going 3-2 or 4-1.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely can. You're looking at the Cardinals, the Falcons, and the Packers. And, the Cardinals and Falcons at home, I mean, they should be the favorite in both those games. I don't know.
They opened
Kyle, I'm terrible at the sports betting stuff. Are they a favorite this weekend?
Yeah, they opened as a 4-point favorite against Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just look, no game is a guarantee in the NFL, but I think the Packers game is clearly going to be the toughest of those 3.
Definitely. And Justin Fields has to play well. Like, there's no getting around it now. Like, the Arizona Cardinals defense is getting thrashed by anyone and everyone. Like, we're going to need a big game from Justin Fields here.
Yeah. You're absolutely going to need a big game from this offense. You should be able to score points. I think everybody would have a better holiday season if the Bears can pick up a win on Sunday at home against this Cardinals team that is not very good.
Can you hear my dog in the background here?
Just a little bit. What's he up to?
He decided to jump off. I heard him whining for he's been whining in the background for 5 minutes and jumped off the couch to grab some water. I got completely distracted by that. Anyone who's been, I'm super excited though, Sean. You'll enjoy. So, our dog had surgery. Anyone who doesn't know this, and had been paralyzed since August, and he just jumped off the couch this morning and walked 10 steps by himself for the first time. So I've
Aw, that's great.
been pumped up all morning about that as he
All
waddles
right.
over here now. Um,
He's on the move.
he is. I want to pivot over from quarterback though to Darnell Mooney. What do you what is happening with Darnell Mooney here? Because coming in this contract year, a pretty good had developed pretty good chemistry with Justin Fields early on, but really there seems to be some sort of disconnect. Just something doesn't look right, Sean, with Darnell Mooney on the football field right now.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is. I can't really put a finger on it. The connection just hasn't been there. I don't know if it's that Justin was spending all this time with DJ Moore over the offseason trying to get that connection going, and the Mooney thing fell by the wayside. I don't know what it is. I think it's been hard for the Bears to find any type of second receiver, and outside of DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, you don't really have a solid other option. And I feel like it goes back to that, or you mentioned earlier the Robert Tonyan drop. It's like that was a guy who I thought would have a bigger impact. And look, I know you got to make that catch, but they've hardly thrown him the ball all year. Of course he's going to be in his head. He has one opportunity. And so, yeah, the chances, the opportunities haven't been there as much. I think, Darnell Mooney, did get targeted a lot last week. It just hasn't, the connection is just not good. I don't know what it is, Kyle.
The connection hasn't been good. The one of the bigger issues outside of that has been his pass blocking or his run blocking, actually, or even blocking in general on the edge. It was an issue again yesterday, and I've seen some comments in here asking. CJ says, is Darnell playing his way out of town, or is that effective field slow processing? I tend to think that Darnell Mooney is playing his way out of town here. He certainly cost himself a lot of money, but you know that the way the Bears want to run this offense, it is, while schematically it hasn't looked all that similar to the Niners. One way that it has remained very similar is they want their tight ends, their running backs, and their wide receivers to be very physical. They want them to be blocking. We saw Chase Claypool get run out of town in large part because of his blocking. Darnell Mooney has continued to struggle in pass blocking. You talk about Robert Tonyan, part of that, Mercedes Lewis, Cole Kmet had a good year. You thought those second and third tight ends would be guys that brought in that could help with that pass blocking. Even when you start going into the running backs, it's been pretty disappointing in that aspect. So, overall, I think schematically, whether they make an offensive coordinator change, and in terms of Darnell Mooney, just they need to change up the personnel, I think, a little bit to fit what they want to do more.
I think you're going to see, and I know everyone's going to say Marvin Harrison Jr. when I say this, but I think you're going to see Ryan Poles look for a bigger, physically bigger receiver. I mean, that's what he liked about Claypool is the body and what he could do at that size. And you would think on paper what he could do in the blocking, as a blocker too.
Well, how big is the Equanimous St. Brown?
He's a tall dude.
Yeah, I'd say he's a big guy himself.
I'd have to look that up, but he's a big dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, you're missing that aspect when he's been out for sure.
Draft wise, let's say the Bears are picking
6'5", 214, 6'5".
He's 6'5". I didn't realize he was that tall.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Yeah, so I have a hard time thinking if the Bears aren't taking a quarterback, I feel like they'd have a really hard time passing on someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think free agency is certainly a route where you're going to see the Bears be aggressive at wide receiver. And it might not be a big name. Like, I think he's going to get franchised no matter what. But, like, let's say T. Higgins was to make it. Like, I think there's a better chance they go for someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top of the draft and find a second or third tier wide receiver that is, someone they feel to be a really good pass blocker. I'd have to look through a list. I'm thinking of guys out in San Francisco, right? Like someone like Jawan Jennings has filled that role really well out in San Francisco. I'm thinking of a player like that is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and like you're right, they've had to try to mold Mooney. I don't think Mooney's a bad blocker. He's had some nice blocks over his career, but he's still a smaller guy. I know the bigger question on that, especially on that Justin Fields rollout where he was running. I know the issue was more like the effort and like what are you doing on that particular play. But in general, I think Mooney isn't a bad blocker. But yeah, I do think you probably want a bigger guy, especially like as good as DJ Moore is, he's not a huge body. He makes some incredible catches for sure, and he's not afraid to go out there and block dudes when he needs to, but I think you're going to look for a bigger dude.
Yeah, want to be completely clear. I don't think it's an effort issue from Darnell Mooney. Maybe on that fourth and
I think he probably just, I think it was probably missing the assignment more than effort. I mean, I would never say that Mooney's not giving his full effort.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying that. I think they're putting him in a position. He's playing a role that I don't think they intended him to play. Like
that's probably EQ if he's healthy.
Yeah, EQ situation. Or Chase Claypool. Yeah. Like they built the roster with the intention that Darnell Mooney would not be a pass blocking or a run blocking receiver. It just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that play went that way because. If you have the block in that situation, you got a first down, you're moving and grooving. Also, DJ Moore was open over the top. I know that's like, we don't know what their reads are, what the play call is, but the dude was open and probably would have scored a touchdown.
Yeah, definitely. All right. We got to get out of here, guys, in the next couple minutes. Sean, anything we haven't hit on from this game? Any injury news?
No, just Tevin Jenkins. I mean, that was like one of the worst concussions I've seen. I feel like he could hardly. I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast. He could hardly walk off the field.
They did not make a big deal of it in the broadcast. I didn't realize that.
And sometimes you don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. But I mean, I'd be surprised if he plays this week. It seemed bad. He needed to take a cart then. Like he had a guy on both sides of him holding his arms as he was walking off. And then he took the cart back to the locker room and it did not look good. And that sucks because he's probably your best lineman.
That poor kid just got to stay on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a concussion. Like those are for the most part pretty random, particularly when it comes to like an offensive lineman. But yeah, that guy can't catch a break.
That was the only big injury news, really. Nothing else notable. It was good to see that Jaquan and DJ were both back there after some questions during the week with some injuries from the week before. But yeah, they both seem fine.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We will be back this week, usually on Friday mornings, but we're going to be with you guys on Thursday this week with the holidays kind of messing some stuff up. Make sure you join us. We'll be here live Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Stick to shawlocal.com throughout the week, though. We'll have plenty of coverage coming your way. Looking forward to hear his thoughts this week, Mark Silverman's thoughts. He allowed himself to dream last week, and then he was immediately slapped down by the football gods, which is very common if you're a Bears fan. But
much like the rest of the Bears fans.
Yeah. So looking forward to seeing how Sylvie's feeling. But thank you, everyone who joined us live this morning. For Sean Hammond, I am Kyle Nabors. We'll talk to you guys later.